Hello everybody, my name's Ryan and I'm a driving instructor, and today, changes to the driving test. Changes to the driving test, what's all that about? Well, before we go any further, like, comment and subscribe. I'm using a new editing program, so this might be a little bit messed up. So changes to the driving test, well it's actually only a trial. They want people on a driving test to go further and faster. I have a lot of difficulty in understanding that, but the planned changes are to reduce the number of stops at the side of the road from 4 to 3, and I'll be completely honest, I didn't know it was 4 because I've seen 5 and 6 stops at the side of the road before. So that's a bit weird. The second one is that they were going to then change the emergency stop from 1 in 3 driving test to 1 in 7, or whatever it says over here, because it's on an email. Now they're only trialling this at certain driving test centres, and I'll put them across the bottom of the screen. But this, I don't get it. I had a driving test yesterday on Thursday where she failed for consistently being under the speed limit. So where it's safe to do so, you should be doing up to the speed limit. So if it's 30, sort of 27, 28, 29, 30, 40, 37, 38, 39, 40, and 50 or more would be within sort of 10%. So if you're on a dual carriageway, they want to see you doing 55, 60 miles an hour. You should be quite capable of doing those speeds if you're doing a driving test. If there is no hazards, no corners, and no obstructions in the way, you should be doing up to that speed limit if you've got a big empty road in front of you. I get that. But in that test area, it is all country roads, and it is all dual carriageway. There's a little bit of town for all of 5 or 6 minutes of that entire test. So I don't get the point of why they were trying to change it so you were going further and faster. It was some statistic that young drivers were more prone to accidents. Actually, I find it's not young drivers at all. I think it's inexperienced drivers. I think it should be reworded as inexperienced drivers. I'm not forgetting that a lot of people who pass a driving test aren't 17. Quite a lot, the majority are under the age of 20, but that doesn't account for everybody. I would say that the majority of my customers, automatic, because I do an automatic, are probably over the age of 25 in most cases. So that sort of begs a question about, what about obscure driving test centres, right? What about, say, my old hometown of Barrow-in-Furness, or Workington on the west coast of Cumbria? Because they don't have dual carriageway access. And in fact, in Barrow-in-Furness, you couldn't even get really onto a country road in 20 minutes. So how are you going to conduct driving tests? Potentially even looking at some more remote driving test centres, some in Scotland and that. And there's a guy, Conquer Driving, who made a video on one of the remotest ones. How are you going to get them up to speed if you literally can't do it? I would suggest that Blythe and Gosforth, you can already do those higher speeds for that sustained amount of time. But is it really going to prove anything? Probably not. Is the trial worth anything? Probably not. It's just another way of not failing somebody for not checking a blind spot. You pull them in 3 times, they haven't checked blind spots. You can't technically fail them for not checking blind spots. Does that make sense? If you pull them in 4 times or did an emergency stop and they don't check the blind spot, potentially you've got 5 fails in one box, and therefore you failed your driving test on minors. I don't quite understand it. Maybe the public out there, maybe you lot can comment and tell me what's going on, and maybe your thoughts, especially the people who have done driving tests. Maybe you can come, maybe some instructors out there that can do this. I have put the email down the side of this video, hopefully, if I've done the proper thing. But I don't quite grasp the concept of what they're trying to achieve at the DVSA. They also issued a new thing saying they're going to do all of these new key points about trying to improve the service and make it so it's much more efficient, and so there's less time for people to wait. I don't believe that for a second. Not that the waiting time is that much of a chore. It's just a pain in the backside. What are your thoughts on these changes? Do you think it's really going to make any difference? Didn't think so. Actually, I think it can potentially, at some driving test centres, actually make it quite a lot worse, where you're actually trying to force somebody to do some speed when it is unnecessary or unwanted. Maybe the solution to all of this, and this is something that people have mentioned before in comments, is to give maybe more driver training, not necessarily hours on the road, but more of a classroom experience. Maybe understanding what's happening, maybe understanding what they're developing, maybe understanding what's around them, maybe like speed awareness courses or the courses that they offer to people who run red lights. Maybe that hazard perception test, maybe redoing that, maybe making the theory test potentially harder. I don't think the solution is to make people drive faster on driving tests. In fact, most examiners will tell you to take your time and believe in what you're doing. Any examiner is going to tell you that because they want you to pass. They don't want you to run around like some crazy fool. If you like what you saw, like, comment, subscribe. Not much more to add, I don't think. I'm in a Hyundai i10 because I bought it. My other car, which you can probably see over there, is going in for repair because it got damaged. I'm on holiday for a few weeks, so you'll see more stuff of that. But yeah, I'm happy days. Bye for now. Enjoy your weekend, enjoy your week, and I'll see you in the next one.